Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today, I am going to give you an Alliance Guide preparation to Home Kingdoms / Realms and the update that is going to be dropping on May 9th at a reset. It is estimated that it's going to be 4 hours of maintenance, which, again, is plus or minus, just always keep that in mind. So we're going to walk through all of the points that I think are really important that alliances should be paying attention to and keeping in mind once Home Kingdoms come for you, which will be, as we've stated and as we've reiterated multiple times, at the end of your KVK season, starting with Season 2 and beyond. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up because it helps out a lot. So number one, for me, is going to be the need to audit and remove if needed. So this is something that is already pretty standard, right? Most alliances are already doing this, but just an added emphasis of that you should be auditing player activity, participation. Why do I say this? It's a lot more than what you may think, because you have to understand you're going to have this opportunity to do potentially more recruiting than I would, and I say more loosely, but it still will be more than from external recruitment, which is via migration. You will be able to do internal recruitment, probably should have said that already, that's more specific, within the kingdom, because now you're going to be able to look around the kingdom and see everyone that's there. And you're going to be able to look at the leaderboards for your kingdom and be able to see a larger, hopefully, whatever that amount may be, but just more players that can and could be available to you. So it is really important to make sure that you are auditing your alliance appropriately and identifying opportunities to make space when applicable. Number two, filling open spots. And I mean that, which is kind of connected to number one, but it's more about filling open spots, even if you can do that prior to going back to the home realm, and then in addition after you get back there, right? Kind of connected to the first one. And I say that because if you can fill and have more of an active alliance prior to going back to the home kingdom, and you can identify those opportunities earlier, whether it be to find people that are in your home kingdom from potentially KVK leaderboards, from conversating with other players, and or through migration recruitment, it will also help you once you get back to the home kingdom to have a fuller, more engaged alliance, especially as it is going to pertain to some of these additional points. Number three, making sure that you plan your center fort drop. Now, I had reached out and asked CoD CS, and I just haven't got a response back yet. It's been a couple hours now, and I'm sure eventually I'll get one, of course. But I was asking just to confirm on if once players and alliances go back to the home kingdom / realm during the home realm preparation phase at the end, near the end of your KVK season, will you be randomly placed in a zone 1, which I think that's what I had read at one point, or is there actually going to be a choice to choose which zone 1 you go to, because we know that they are resetting alliance territory passes and behemoth and village captures, right? So they're all kind of back open. Now, regardless of which one is done, at the end it doesn't really matter because really the most important thing is that you are communicating all of that to your alliance members and making sure that everyone knows where they need to go and or end up at. And so planning your center fort drop, like we've talked about, I think is going to be pretty important. Now, it may not necessarily be as important if you're in a kingdom where there's not multiple alliances or you're like the strongest dog there, if you will, right, to that extent. But it will matter when we're talking about pacing for how long it's going to take for you to get from, example, a zone 1 into a zone 2 and then eventually into zone 3 where Dragon will be, especially if you're aiming for that high king or queen position. So what does this mean? Well, you probably are going to drop your CF closer to a level 2 pass, right? An example could be dropping it here, having quick access to zone 3, right? So maybe if you're in Kaltia, right, you drop it here as an example, right, closer to a level 3 pass or somewhere that's closer to Dragon. Or maybe you drop it over here in Nivola, right? And then you work your way across. So I guess you have to go like around, and here in order to get to level 3 pass, right? But basically something that has a more of a beeline shot right? So like an example from here to this level 3 pass is probably shorter than this one, because with this one I think you have to go like this, have to go like around all the way, like from this to that pass, right? So you're probably looking at the ones that have faster access. So it's like Southeast Nivola from this level 2 to there. You're looking at southeast. Then you're looking at Southwest Nivola. Then you're probably looking at Northeast Kaltia, right? Those are probably going to have faster points of access to get to level 3. Again, maybe if you're talking like here, I don't know, maybe here, but that still seems pretty far, like from this one, kind of mid Burning Lands. But it'll be interesting if people time that out, right? Especially if they're just trying to get there as soon as they can. This could eventually be like a Zone 3 Dragon race to an extent as well. Now, do I think that a lot of the kingdoms are going to have, equal or equal-ish competition, or that's even going to be a thing? Probably not. But if you're looking to try and make the most amount of flagging time and efficiency in how fast you can get there with the least amount of flags to do so, given that you're probably going to have 1 to 2 weeks on average, right? That's what our estimate is of the time that you're going to be in the home kingdom until the next season starts. Doing that and trying to plan that out is going to be really important. So what's one way to do that? Well, you load up a Season 1 map or go make an account in a Season 1 kingdom, or you observe a Season 1 kingdom and then you zoom in all the way and you figure out what the distance is for each flag, and then you just map it out, right? Or if you zoom out, you pre-draft the route that they have to go to get to the level 3 pass, and then you would, for example, do something like if I'm zoomed out this far, I would just do this, right? I would create this shape, take a screenshot, and I would like plug it here, right? I'd do like a plug here, a plug here, a plug here, right? And then you can kind of do it that way as well to kind of get a soft estimate, right, on how many flags it might take. Just a thought. And then obviously this goes into point number 4, which is planning out your flagging, right, after your CF drop. Number 5 would be territory and behemoth distribution. So you're going to have to figure out how, again, depending on the zone that you're going in. Now, I personally think, and I might mention this at the end as well, but I very much think that once we see alliances going back to their home kingdoms, it can very much turn into like, oh, we probably have less than 6 active alliances or 7 or less active alliances. Let's just have each alliance get their own Zone 1 to start, as an example. I think that's completely viable given how it's probably going to be. So in that case, it's really just a matter of like, what Zone 1 do you want? I think that's pretty easy to say at this point. Unless we get into a situation where, some kingdoms that are in Season 2 and beyond have more than 7 active alliances, but I highly doubt that. However, you still would want to go and figure out how you are going to flag out and establish or designate your territory, along with the same thing for behemoths. Now, this was obviously going to come more so once we get to Zone 2 and more so when we get to Zone 3. These are things you're going to have to figure out not only for yourself, but with other alliances that are there as well. Number 6. And this is already connected, right? Where we talk about coordinating with other alliances. But more specifically, you need to reach out to other alliances. And you need to have conversations with them and figure out, how are we going to work together? How are we going to distribute territory? What is fair and appropriate for everyone? Because in some aspects, this will and can impact how many players continue playing in your kingdom, and if your player drop-off rate increases or decreases, which is basically what everyone wants to try and do. Number 7 is going to be make use of the time in the home kingdom as an alliance. And this is everything from healing to doing any internal restructuring to making sure that you're sending mails out to your members to give them appropriate timelines and expectations. If you have any kind of new, I was going to say operating procedures, but that's not the case. But if you have new goals and standards, targets, etc., right, that you're going to be getting into for the next season, are you going to maybe do some mock battles or some mock wars? Or is there testing that maybe needs to be done? These are things you're going to have the opportunity to do. Try to get more people into the Discord, etc. Really take this opportunity to heal, like R&R, right? Rest and recover, and then prepare, right? So kind of an RRP, if you will. Next one is alert every alliance member. I think it's number 8 for me. And what I mean by that is making sure that every alliance member is aware of what's happening, what's going on, what is coming up, And doing that in a way where you make sure that you have the highest percentage chance to where everyone in the alliance will read, right, those important mails and important pieces of information. So, it could be an example of that could be you guys put a mail out or you put a Discord announcement out and you send a DM to every single person in your alliance. And you say, hey, once you guys read this, please give us a sign off. Please give us a check off. Like, to me, I think that could be a really important and a great thing to do, just so you get that peace of mind that everyone has hopefully read that information. Next one, I think this is number 9, which is going to be making sure that you invest, I think, in the buildings and battlefields alliance skill. Right? Because if they do not add in some kind of increased building speed buff or increased alliance tech buff, etc., right? Probably mostly building, really for the most part, flagging and fort building. If they're not going to do that, then either I guess no matter what, you probably still want to. But the idea is that if you invest in this alliance skill, it's going to increase your building speed. And so being able to do that could also save you some time in Home Kingdom and allow for you to carve out your territory that much faster. The next one you're going to want to do is setting up your warband. I think this is number 10. So you want to set up your warband. That's really important, right? Remember, warbands can only be set up in the Home Kingdom / realm, so you're going to want to go ahead and figure out which alliances, right? So if you have 4 or less active alliances, then just set up a warband with those. If you have 5 or more alliances, then you might want to split and do like a 2-3 split, right? Or a 3-3 split. But I would argue, for the majority of kingdoms, it's probably going to be one warband in the majority of them, right? With having 4 or less active alliances. But make sure you set that up and you do that before the next KVK season starts so you can take advantage of all of those assisting or assists that can be provided from one alliance to another. Last point I'm going to give is that, and this is something that is a little bit more kind of grandiose in its idea, is that you have to consider and think about how your actions are going to affect / support your kingdom. And this is more about how are you going to operate? What are your goals? What are your expectations versus other active alliances that are there? And even to a degree, regardless of what power level those alliances are at, you have to really be cognitively thinking about, well, if we decide, and I'll kind of give you some extremes. One extreme is like, okay, if we decide we're just going to take everything, and then if anyone fights us, we'll just, kill them or fight back, and then whatever's left, people can have. Well, that's probably going to elicit more player drop-off, most likely, versus the other end of the spectrum, which is, okay, well, we want to work with everyone, right? And we want to try and split everything up fairly as much as possible, and that will probably have an increase, or an increase in less player drop-off, right? Or I'll just say have less player drop-off compared to more. So you have to really try to identify what's important to you because, like I've said this before multiple times, now that you are in a home kingdom, you have to think about things from more of a kingdom perspective versus an alliance perspective. And how you operate as an alliance can have massive implications to how the kingdom is looked at and to whether or not people are going to want to stay in that kingdom or not. So again, keeping those things in mind, and I hope that these help out, right? These are just some of the highlighted points and some important areas that I think are good to speak on, so that way alliances have a little bit more of what I would consider to be realistic expectations going into home kingdoms when they eventually arrive for you. That's going to do it for me. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And if there's anything else that you think is important that maybe I didn't touch on or we didn't talk about, please feel free to let us know. Would love to read those as well. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch y'all later.